We have a couple of announcements. We do have a special guest that wasn't announced on the ticket item. So welcome Gary Marling. It's great to see you, and we got these for you the last time. You never turned up.
What can you do about it?
That's worse than pregnancy, I've heard.
You're a man, not much.
Yeah. So lots of new people here tonight. So I will introduce myself. My name's Steve Harvey, not to be confused by that popular American comedian. There's lots of Woolworths people here, so you get the nine items or less, Steve. All right. Welcome. We really love having you here. We're going to have some great fun tonight. So please, I'll introduce you to Josh.
Just Ryan,
Yeah.
I hit record on the microphone and record on the camera. Have a great night.
And he tells me to shut up a lot. The award-winning Josh Bryant. You're right. I forgot about that.
International keynote.
Multi. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I was shocked too, mate. It doesn't tell you what it's for, though.
Exactly. Well, you're doing it differently.
Yeah. It's for HR. A couple of announcements. I want to do announcements first, and then we'll thank our sponsors for tonight. I feel like I'm amongst friends, and I can share this news. I am transitioning.
Is there an operation?
Who fucking laughed at?
Yeah, there's, first hormones and then...
Yeah, I am transitioning out of my role at Origin. So I will be available and on the market in January. So if anybody wants me, please give me a shout, because I have a massive mortgage and 2 dachshunds. All right, and two teenagers too, but in private school. So, again, I will put it out there. I am transitioning out of my role.
Yeah, we're going to cut it there.
So that's can that be recorded so that I can post this on LinkedIn and beg? I'm begging people for roles. My resume's shite.
Don't beg too hard.
Don't beg too hard. Okay, is that?
Price comes down.
Oh, does it? All right. Okay. Well, I'm just going to say I know this guy. Well, no, never mind this guy. I know this guy. I know Georgina. Yeah. Cool. Listen, everybody. Thanks very much for coming along. Tonight is sponsored by the team at Event Learning Australia. One fucking job.
Sorry, I'm here.
Next one, please, mate.
Hello, stop.
Yeah.
No!
So, gang, I'm super excited to announce Georgina, Poole and Sidney Dekker! Woo! I don't think anybody knows who you are, mate, so you might need to introduce yourself.
It was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful to be so anonymous. Everybody knows who Georgina is. I had no idea about tonight. I had no idea about this book, which I haven't read. Honestly. So I have no idea what's in it. I wrote it, or I wrote parts of it, but that's a while ago. That's in fact 2 books ago. Now you haven't read the other 2 yet, because they're not out yet, but they will be.
There's no promote.
Shut up already?
Yeah. We'll come to you. Right. But I kind of feel like you're the Pepsi and Shirley of safety. Like how did this book come to fruition?
Oh, it's my fault. Is it on? It was my fault because I had promised the publisher a trilogy, which is the worst thing to do because what seems like a really good idea at the time, I got ideas for 3 books. And then by the time you've written the first one, which was Compliance Capitalism, which is actually quite a cool book. I haven't read that. Actually, I have read that. Is it an audiobook? It is? No. Okay. Shit. Okay, so I haven't read it. But it was actually quite a cool book. It was cool to write. But then they wanted the second one in the series. And by that time, I had ran completely out of inspiration for the second one. And I'm going, yeah, those ideas that I submitted to the publisher, and that went all through the board, and they were excited about it. I had no energy to write any of it. And I do not recall what it was supposed to be. So then Georgie shows up and has these ideas, and so I said, there's a book in that, and you know what? I have a contract for it. I just had to convince him that the title is going to be different. That's this book. So it was under duress.
Under duress.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Oh, you were under duress, all right. What the denuded, what was it? Anorexic that needed
that
some...
was the first right. You said it was an undenuded anorexic that required clothing. That was the first.
That was her writing. That was her writing. It was very thin.
47,000 words, but let's leave that for another day.
Actually, let's talk about that, because
Sure.
I can imagine that both of you have completely, in fact, I know you both have completely different writing styles, because I have to read your books twice. So how did you manage the tension with that?
So you only read half of this twice? Is that
The good half. How do we manage the writing styles?
Yeah.
Many toing and froing, I guess, going back and forth between each chapter being written, and then slightly...
Me not reading anything. That's probably how we managed it.
And then slightly adjusting. And then Sidney had a really great editor that did a lot of work. That's
true.
He
He read
did.
it.
He did a
Yes,
fantastic
yes.
job of amalgamating the two writing styles at the end.
Daryl Horn up in Canada. Yeah,
he
good
did.
on him. Good
He
on
did a
him.
really
Yeah,
great
yeah,
job.
Something in
true.
Canada? Wow.
Yeah.
I just want to take this moment to pause and say, you're up the front now. How attractive is this audience? They're
beautiful.
They are bloody good-looking bunch.
Particularly the hazy IPA sitting there. I mean, that looks really attractive. Yeah, I know it's yours, brother, but yeah.
I'm trying not to look at him. He's just.
No, forget the beer. I mean, forget you. I mean, it's the beer.
Really, just about. So, welcome. You're bloody attractive, I have to say. That's a bit creepy, isn't it?
It's super cute.
Yeah, I know. Fuck it. It's because I'm unemployed.
And transitioning and all of that. And you have teenagers?
Yeah, and 2 dachshunds.
That's a bad idea.
Yeah, I know.
That's all a bad
I
idea.
know.
A boy and a girl?
The
What,
kids
the
or the
dachshunds?
dogs?
No. Well,
The dachshunds are 2 dogs. It's 2 dogs, 2 girls. All right. Let's face it. Metrics are not going away anytime soon. So how do we start changing that conversation and maybe something a bit more meaningful?
What do you answer that one?
not a shit question.
Okay, in that case, let me answer that one. This question actually came up at the Melbourne WHS show as well. And my starting point was not that you go in, and I use this statement, singing and flagging the Book of Dekker as if it's your Bible, that you start small. Which of the 20 books? None of them. Like, don't go in trying to change your metrics all of a sudden to be something different. It requires some work and a level of influence. And some of the things that we have done, and when I say we, I'll refer to my role at Coke. One of the things that we've done is introduce a strength of defences measurement or metric that refers to the capacity to fail safely. So it talks about, it's a sexier version of your hierarchy of controls and talks about level crossings and what that looks like, obviously with elimination being at the top. But yeah, although depending on who you speak to, it obviously has its critiques as well. Sure. Yeah, but I think looking at your capacity to fail safely, building your error tolerant systems and having some sort of idea or metric around that is a little bit more, pivotal than perhaps our traditional metrics.
True, I mean, and it gets people in the right space. It's ontologically limited, right? Because we're still talking about systems that we believe are essentially predictable, right? That we can think through the failure modes. This is how we're going to fail. Okay, let's have a barrier. Let's check the condition of the barrier. And the thing is that what we see, of course, in complexity is that we don't have enough cognitive capacity to foresee all the failure pathways. That's what complexity does. These are the challenges of complexity, which is, by the way, the third book in the series that I've almost done writing. So I know what's in that because I was looking at it earlier today. But in fact, I was writing it earlier today. So in some sense, yes, the integrity of the controls, all of that definitely is a very worthwhile measure. While you create a numbers parking lot for the old stuff, right? If people really find it important to have Trevor and his Triffer, park that somewhere and let them celebrate. Well, actually, don't let them celebrate it because it incentivizes all the wrong things, but you know that otherwise you wouldn't be here. But what's important is to also then transition the discussion from controls and barriers, which are very Newtonian concepts, right, and are grafted onto this ontology that thinks that we can predict and foresee how things can go wrong as well as right. But is to understand broader capacities to adapt around things going wrong in ways that we cannot predict. And that is sort of the Holy Grail.
The Holy Grail?
Is that very pedestrian?
No, it's not. I've got another shit question. I just make these up on the back of a bus. Like just.
Were you on the bus? I was on the bus.
So, do you know what? I fly a lot, and I've noticed
In the back.
in the back.
Yeah, that's shite. Yeah.
Well, not anymore because I'm unemployed and I'm available from January. I do fly, but do you know what? I've noticed we're not seeing as many zero harm jerseys as what we used to see a lot around the place. So I'm just wondering, like chasing.
Are we purging them?
Yeah, with a bonfire.
Yeah, but
Good.
we don't really see it. Do you don't think so? Like you fly a lot too, Sidney.
Not in the back.
Like,
I fly my own plane. Yeah.
Jeez, that's a cheap jibe, that one, isn't it?
No zero harm shirts in that.
Yeah. So I'm kind of wondering what in the book you talk about the unintended consequences of chasing some of these targets. What are they? And again, how can we sort of change that conversation?
No, you don't.
Well, with all the research that went into the book, one of the key ones that I like to quote is that you're actually statistically more likely to have a fatality if you do have a zero harm philosophy within your organisation. So that's something that not a lot of people know, but it is statistically proven through research. So I think the more we can share the message around what does the research show, what do the stats show, what is the evidence out there around not only zero harm, but the metrics, the different things that we're all kind of fighting for. I think that's the key to it.
So, but the pushback that we always get, even on this point, is, but it's not a target. We have in our company, it is an aspiration.
Yeah.
My aspiration, right? My aspiration. That's a dad joke. But and my kids have left the house for a good reason, I suppose, right? Yes. They're all in different countries. That's not relevant at all. What matters is even if people come back and say, it's only an aspiration, very quickly we'll see that it starts changing behaviors on the ground, right? You get what Corey Pitzer beautifully calls risk secrecy, right? You start shutting up about certain things. As soon as we incentivize somehow, even by reputation or by peer pressure, a low count of whatever it is that we're counting, you will get a low count, right? And all you have is the low count. It measures nothing because it's just achieving a target, right? Even though it's not a target, it's an aspiration. So I think there's great risk in leaving people and organizations that out and to say, we're just an aspiration. I take them back, as I have in some of my writings, which I haven't read, and you probably haven't either, but Christianity was all about zero harm, right? Christians want to eliminate suffering from the world, right? And now they have particular stories about how that happened, through a lot of suffering, by the way, but, right? But that was the idea, right? Let's make suffering go away. That was, of course, what paradise was all about, right? A place without suffering. And then people show up, and the first thing they do is violate rules, right? Okay, I know this is a secularized country. I mean, but I... I'm just talking to myself. Is that it? Okay. Sorry. No, I'm done.
Just use that one. Just use that one. Yeah, toss that. Good.
I'm done. Point made.
You're done?
I can go on.
You just chatted about the stuff that Coca-Cola are doing with metrics. I'd love to hear a wee bit more, actually, seeing as you're like...
It's not in the book.
It's just a wee secret between us.
It's not a secret. So part of my role at Coca-Cola is implementing and rolling out human and organisational performance across the business. And part of that has been, including Jordan, he's part of the team. So part of that is obviously challenging the norm. It's probably the first role in my career where I've ever felt like I could be myself. And it started with having a very, very severe conversation with our South African VP of safety around, he said the big stick approach works. He said the big stick approach works from a compliance perspective. And I said, did you actually just say that to the person that wrote the book on metrics and has argued for however many years against what you just said? And I was able to have that conversation without any fear or ramifications occurring in the workplace. Nobody treated me any differently. Sidney is dying.
I need to talk about the South African Boers who run this business, right? And so
maybe not. There might be some in the
but
audience.
that's fine. I love you too. And so and you're Dutch stock, which is all good, right? So you speak a language like 400 years ago from what I speak. But then I was talking to the nuclear people in the UK, right? And which is actually run by a South African, right? One of these Boer people. And so I'd done my talk and basically, right, a little preview of this stuff. And he clambers onto the stage and he's walking all really awkwardly and going like this.
What's my camera?
I know. Here's your camera. And he says to the audience, yes, I have to clamber over all of the slaughtered cows that are on the stage. After Dekker spoke, this is not funny? I thought it was hilarious, actually. Okay. You don't even speak English well. I mean, this is not... All right, I give up. I'll have my beer. I love you, Tim.
I would just like to apologise to our South
Move
African
on, Steve. Move on.
Just Sidney Dekker, nothing to do with me.
He's still angling for a job, right?
I am South African Diamond Mines. I wouldn't
No, she will answer it.
No. Well, so, Georgina, you wrote Sidney's 20-odd books.
I don't have a ghostwrite.
Sidney, what's the book that you... Like, I'll be honest, I didn't want to give you a big head here, but your book, The Field Guide to Understanding Human Error, changed my career in 2015. And it was an unfortunate story, but I'll tell you about that later. I'm just kind of wondering, what's the book that you've written that you think, I really love this, this is really important, we should do more of this?
Microphone.
I really love that. We should be doing more of it. I should be doing more of it, or as a community, we should be doing more
As
of
a
it.
community.
Yeah. Then it actually probably goes back to the field guide, Steve. The news is today. There's a new $10 Kindle version out of the original field guide, the field guide to human error investigation. So you can get that for $10 now. So others understood that one was a big hit, which I wrote, by the way, when Jonathan was a baby and I was in Sweden, and it was batshit boring to be with a baby. I don't know if you have many babies, but if you do, you go, okay, it sleeps, it shits, it eats, and then it makes some noises, and that's it. It doesn't talk, doesn't do anything. So I wrote a book, and so that was the first field guide.
The one book that's pivotal to our whole safety profession,
because
right?
I was
and
bored.
And he's making it out like it's nothing.
I was really bored.
It's the book that every safety professional should 100% read. If I get
You're
asked
such a sweetie.
from
That's the
anyone,
one. Yeah.
what book should I read? I'm like, read nothing else. If you read nothing else,
it
read
was
that
written
book.
out of tedium.
Who cares? No one
Tedium
cares.
and boredom. I do.
It's the book. It is the Bible for incident investigations,
I love
human
you too.
error, like all of the stuff that we all believe in and are passionate about stems out of whether you think it's shitty or not, right?
No,
Like
I'm not saying the book is shitty. No.
Well, you wrote it, so I hope not.
The book is definitely not shitty. We can see that.
It's
but
the pivotal one,
yeah,
right?
I think it's
the one
if
that
no one has
stands
read it, I
out.
really would recommend that. It's something you have a look at. I remember in 2015 when I read it, it pissed me off actually, because I was reading it going like, why is nobody practicing like this? Why is nobody doing this stuff? that led me to meet Josh, and we have a beautiful relationship ever since.
Yeah, that's why you're transitioning.
Don't let him talk without a microphone.
Hey, your turn.
Sure.
You and I went to America this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. I don't know, honestly, I don't know how I done it. I managed to score a gig speaking about stand-up comedy and safety. And I remember getting the email from Charles Major going, oh my God, I just made this shit up after a couple of beers. I'm going to have to write something. So I done it, and it was really terrible. But how beautiful is that community over there?
Yeah, so I know we like to say that Australia is really well advanced when it comes to some of this stuff. But when you look at America and you look at the nuclear energy and the DOE and what's been happening over in the States for the last 30, 40, 50, even more years or so, Australia has a way to go. And those conferences in the States, if you can afford to get over there, because obviously flights and time, etc., it all adds up. But the sense of community that you get, it's not 50 people in a room. You're talking 400 people, 600, 800 people, and they all believe in the same thing. And everyone wants to share their knowledge and expertise with you. From the conference that I went to the year before last, which that's CHOL one, I started up a WhatsApp group with a number of the Americans that I befriended while over there, and still have that WhatsApp group and share knowledge. And when you have a shitty day, we get on there and we're like, is it really about blame? And we talk about all the hot principles. And it's so great to have that group of people to challenge and to also check yourself. You're like, am I seeing things? Am I on the wrong track here? Or is this what we talk about? But some of those people were part of the original DOE handbook, the ones that Conklin, Conklin is kind of, and Fisher were part of, like those like hop fathers or godfathers or whatever you want to call them, right? That they were part of when it first came out, those old school human performance principles that not everyone likes or whatever. So that sense of community is what sticks with me. And it's one of those ones that even if I, had no job and no role, I would try and find a way to get over there just for that one conference, that CHOL one. And they have free webinars that you can go onto their website and, check out as well. But if you can get to a CHOL conference, you want to go.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. That was pretty life-changing for me, actually. Yeah. I remember Georgina came to me and said, hey, do you need me to introduce you to anybody? And I was like, no, just let me go and find some people. And the next day she was like, oh my God, how many people do you know?
He was going on a boat ride with like Rob Fisher. I'm like, what the hell?
What goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas.
This is true.
Yeah, it's true. All right, you're a mum to wee George. Mm-hmm. You're a wife to where's Steve? He's over there. You've got a full-time gig. What the fuck are you thinking about taking on a PhD? What's that about? And tell us some of the stories.
So what it's about, we haven't narrowed it down completely. I think we're close. Is basically about safety initiatives driving organisational change within an organisation, but it's based off change agents. So each of you in your organisation driving the change, what makes it sustain or what makes it flop after you leave. And I've already started the research despite not technically being a PhD candidate already. And thanks to Sidney, I've had some really amazing opportunities to talk to some wonderful people. And the first one I spoke to was a really great director, health and safety person, I guess you can say, of a really big company that was doing things nicely and doing things the way that we all kind of agree things should be done. And his little insight was around, he, as a health and safety person, rolled out programs and bits and pieces of information across the organisation. And retrospectively and with hindsight looking back now, he says he wished he would have got the entire leadership team on board with moving forward with the mindset and the philosophy instead of what we all know, the hype around micro-experimenting, finding those pockets of excellence. He's like, I still think you should do that. However, the buy-in that you get from the senior executive level, the CEO, and like Josh speaks to this point too with Mitchell's, right? Like it's, you want your CEO, you want your next level down and your next level and your next, before you go spruiking anything differently, you really need that leadership buy-in. And we're talking top level leadership, and then go out and spruik, I'd like to micro experiment and here's what I'd like to implement. But it's still within the organization that he worked for. There's a new manager coming in and he's wrapping up. but it's just interesting. So the flavour is, with the model of questions, I have a number of interviews scheduled. Next Saturday, I actually leave for Venice, where I'm sitting in on a Safety Differently masterclass. And from there, I'm flying to the Netherlands, where I'm interviewing a number of professionals who do this stuff and who have created change like all of us are a part of. Whether that change has flopped or sustained is what I'm studying for the better of all of us, not for me. This isn't for Georgina. I don't feel like I mean, obviously it's study, which will help me in my career, but this is for the benefit of every organisation that's like, holy crap, how do we do this successfully? To save time, to save money, and to save all of us the stress that I've experienced personally, the tears at work of trying to get messages through time and time again. I'd like to create a successful recipe book on how to do that. And I will take it back to a food analogy because I'm a log and that's how I roll. So yes, a recipe book on how to do safety differently, successfully, in organisations.
I love it. I love it, love it. All right, so about you guys. You are very fucking attractive. Who's having it? Who's got a question? Anybody but Michael.
When you talk about food, Georgina, I get really excited. So, I'm a chef by trade, so that's
okay.
That's why it wasn't just.
Was wondering where you were going.
No, it's all right.
That was not awkward at all.
Nice to know you.
He's sitting there with popcorn.
This is going to get really interesting.
Keep going.
So one thing I've always grappled with, right, when you talk about random noise, when you talk about measuring safety performance, I don't see safety performance being separate from business performance, right? And understanding the state of safety in an organisation is one of those really complex things. You're talking even about critical control management as a way to do it, but there's other stories or context around that. So I'm just trying to get my head around. We're doing some work at the moment in that space around trying to build narrative-based reporting for our executives and for our board to understand the state of safety in the organisation. And because we've got a really complex, large organisation, what advice have you got in that space to be able to, I suppose, improve our level of reporting back into our organisation?
That's okay.
Michael, thank you for that. I think the one piece of advice that I would like to give comes from a very small airline, actually. Rather than reporting near misses and talking about that in that language, they report good catches. And that may be a shift that many of you have already made, but to the extent that you haven't, there's a remarkable transition in people's willingness to report or share, honestly disclose their good catches, because it constructs a completely different story already. Right? So that would be my immediate recommendation.
I think we've done something slightly similar at Coke. And obviously, you know, as a manufacturing business, you're going to have a number of manual handling, typical types of injuries that you have. And normally at an LTI level, it requires a phone call through to the CEO. So you can imagine the operation managers and how they feel when that actually happens, right? Again, when we talk about metrics, what kind of behaviors do you think that drives? If every time I have one, I have to phone the CEO of Coca-Cola, right?
We'll call it something else.
Yeah. So what we do instead is narrative. So we actually still have to report on. We haven't made the change to something fantastic like good catches, but we know that we're going to have all these injuries related to manual handling. So instead of highlighting them by colours on a graph or something, we actually put an extra body of content in there that talks to the injuries where unmitigated risk was present or that you would not normally see within that part of the organisation. Right. So calling out the story. The person normally that has done the research on the incident itself. Right. Yeah. So whoever that is, would put that content in there. And we're really driving storytelling from a learning perspective as well. So we've created, obviously we rolled out the baby food 4Ds across the business. And I say baby food, that's a Dekker reference. He called it that to Brent Sutton's face, I believe. We have rolled out
I
the
make
4
friends
Ds.
really easily.
We have proudly rolled out the 4 Ds across the business.
Because you produce baby food all over. That's what you do for a living, girl.
And have changed the narrative around what we share across the business. So yes, I believe we're leaning into the storytelling side of metrics.
Yeah, just to add to that. So yeah, look, some of the stuff we're doing is we're doing positive or proactive learning into deep diving into bits of work, and we're trying to tell those stories around where we've got guys going out doing learning teams or operational learning. We're trying to tell a story around a piece of work or an activity. So we're building that into our reporting. We've taken away Triffer and LTI4 and all that stuff, and so we've
And nobody's clamoring for it?
No. We've had one board member who's new, who doesn't really understand it, but we're trying to work with those guys. But yes, some of that
Good on you,
stuff's
Mike.
really
That's
cool.
good. That's good.
Yeah, that is amazing.
Yeah.
Any other questions, gang? Oh,
John. Thank you. Georgina, Sidney, congratulations on the book and thanks for presenting. This year, ISO 45004 guidelines for performance evaluation of OHS management systems was released. Do you guys have a position or comment or any comments to make on that, on its usefulness, on its...
This is being recorded, right?
I can edit it.
This is being recorded. So, no comment.
No, you have to comment.
It will do nothing except create more paperwork, John. So, the minimal amount of effort that you can get away with, and then go do some good shit. You know, that would be my recommendation. Are you burdened with this?
No, just interested in the ideal state. We often, as safety practitioners, we're often tuned to identify problems and things that need to be improved.
Yes. Okay.
So the ideal state would be that the international standard would provide guidance how to manage random noise, or how to improve performance evaluation. So,
and 04 doesn't do that yet, you reckon?
I don't know that I know enough about it to
Yeah,
comment.
Yeah, okay. But I mean, philosophically, do you think it is moving a few inches toward what we're talking about here?
There is some ISO standards by nature are generic guidelines.
Yeah, no.
Very generic.
The answer is
very,
no.
Yeah, so no.
They need to adapt.
It doesn't.
Thanks, Josh. There might be a starting point, but I think you all are able to share a lot of research and shared experience.
Yeah.
Is it a step in the right direction? Maybe. Could it be better, or could it learn from, say, some of the research that you've done?
Yeah, okay.
Perhaps?
It's not. It's a traditional ISO standard that is written like every other ISO standard to set the bare minimum requirements of an organisation, similar to a code of practice. It doesn't tilt the gauge in the... It tilts the gauge for those organisations that are not doing the bare minimum, just like a code of practice sets your fundamental level of what you should do if you want to make sure you comply with legislation. It doesn't tilt the gauge enough in the right direction to make a positive difference with what we're all trying to do. I'm not dissing an international standard. I'm just saying when you look at the documentation that guides organisations around what to do in this space, it hits compliance and traditional safety. The majority of the documentation out there is written by traditional safety professionals who believe in doing things the old school way, as opposed to the...
So is it holding us back? Is it holding us back?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and every time someone tries to attempt to influence anything of a documentary or a regulatory, bring that to the regulatory bodies, they get shunned and pushed out. So until we start accepting different and diverse perspectives as part of our regulatory bodies, as well as our ISO, and when it goes out to comment, I've seen what it looks like. 5 people, and they're all traditional safety people, are the ones that comment on it, and they're all like, thumbs up, we love it, thanks, please include more on LTI, FR or something. There's not enough loud voices contributing to those things. So if you get the opportunity to make public comment on an ISO standard, you want to share it and contribute to it. Otherwise, we have what we have, right?
Kieran, I will come back to you in a second. A question just came to my mind there.
That's remarkable. How did that happen?
Is it hurting?
What is the name of my dash hounds?
Two girls,
Sid-
right?
Sid-
Millie and-
Sidney, you've been talking about this stuff since really the early 90s, haven't you? Really? Have you been frustrated by the lack of... I still kind of feel that we're a small group in that new view, safety differently world. Have you been kind of frustrated by the lack of uptake in the thinking?
So in some sense, you're asking about measurement, right? To what extent have I measured uptake relative to the lack of uptake, right? And so all scientists feel tragically misunderstood. That's the starting position, right? So that's why you hide as a professor and you have a university job and you can say weird shit, right? And you still keep your job, unlike you lot, right? Right.
I'm available. I am available from January.
Get the camera.
Yeah, available from January.
But Steve, no, thank you for the question, and let me try to give you a genuine answer. To the extent that I feel frustrated with the lack of progress, it motivates me to do it more and do more of it and do it harder and find other niches to keep publishing and pushing and talking about this stuff. Measured by the number of invitations I get that I have to turn down because I don't have time because there's other invitations, and that I'm booked well into October 25, seems to suggest that there is a certain appetite for this message, right? So that keeps me going. Where I get really frustrated is like last night when I'm visiting the, good God, a mental health facility somewhere in this country where an incident had taken place, and the first thing that the CEO of that system does is to fire the two lowest nurses involved in the incident. That's when I get really pissed off. And actually, I feel my heart rate go up and I go, where is this asshole? Because we have to tell them to stop doing dumb shit. And I will get that message across, and I will never be invited back, but that's okay, right? And so that's where I get viscerally frustrated, Steve. Yeah. So, because it violates the very morals on which I think my whole scholarship is grounded on.
Yeah, I kind of feel like once you've started reading about this stuff and immersing yourself in it, it really is hard to go back, isn't it? It's like I feel like Kieran, I know that you had a question. You've got the last question for the night before I start the fun stuff.
So many questions, but I'll narrow it down to one. Hang on, just yell really loud.
Now,
Right, okay. I'm troubled there's two Irish people in this room.
Are there?
What are you troubled about?
That's the oldest Scottish person. I got so many questions, but bubbling around my brain. But one of the key ones I've got at the minute is, as a science communicator, effectively communicating the science around health and safety. Challenges are present in effectively getting that message across to all levels of an organisation. Have you found any method or way of getting that science message across without hitting a barrier or somebody's distrust of experts that is quite prevalent in the world at the moment?
Wait for the mic. Mic.
You've got a couple of seconds to chew on that, Sidney.
There you go.
No, that's why we need people like you.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you're fucked then.
Toast to that.
Josh, just so you can edit it out later. Beep. Has you got any thoughts?
I don't think I've seen it anywhere where there's been you just said no level of, like barriers or anything like that. No. And I think the message is, and what I've witnessed over the last 18 years, is that as safety professionals, we're expected to hit the ground running in a variety of complex and dynamic work environments. We don't necessarily all have the skills to be able to communicate across a variety of levels and to be able to influence at a variety of levels. And there's a lot to be said of our standard degrees, certificates, and things, like QUT, University for the Real World, right? Griffith, we all have our own, slogans that we go with, but I'm just saying the skills that we're being taught. I was a Cert 4 trainer for an RTO a Cert 4 WHS trainer for an RTO. And unfortunately, the learnings that are coming out of the Cert 4, which is the minimum requirement to be a whoso in Queensland, is minimal, right? It also does not tilt anyway in any shape, way or form to anything that we're all doing in this room. So the communication, the skills, the competencies that each of our universities, as well as our TAFEs and our RTOs are teaching, I don't feel are equipping the next era of safety professionals to be able to even come close to tilting the gauge in the right direction in the first place. The only course I would recommend is, and I'm not even kidding, the Grad Cert in Safety Leadership, or of course there are others, those I shall not mention, who also play in this space that do tilt it in the right direction, right?
Because they're copycats.
Because they're copycats. But yes.
Learn from the best. So there you go. No, and then I'll shut up. But I do get actually requests from people in the know for students who are in this scholarship, and so we may need to talk, transition guy, because there's particular requests out actually that you could fit quite well. Then we're rid of you. But seriously, there is a swell, and so in that sense, absolutely, I think more is more, right? So if it comes down to a community like you, I mean, it's easy to write. It's certainly when you have a co-author like this amazing gal, who's both Greek and Italian and doesn't take no for an answer, and has produced an amazing book.
Book now.
Well, no, we're going to give this away, right?
Yeah.
It's not mine, so I don't have it.
There's one more. You can have one more question, and then one more, and then.
Yeah.
And then
I'm not Gary.
No. It'll take all evening,
You
right?
get one every book club, right? You get one every book club.
Thanks. So, to that point, as you're talking about and now targeting the safety industry as a cohort, are we perhaps not putting our efforts where we're going to get maximum benefit from? So we've got all these MBA courses that have zero information around this
stuff, yeah.
And noting that our leaders are the ones that are requesting safety managers to come up with, they're requesting the treasures, they're requesting the 1960s metrics. So what are we doing as an industry? And then perhaps it's probably something that we can influence, around for AIHS and these other industry bodies who are supposed to be working for us to influence into these, leadership forums as opposed to just targeting safety.
Well done, mate. You've just won the book.
No, it's he has already.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't even know what the criteria were. I just made them up. Thank you for the question. I think this illustrates very clearly the point that I was about to make before he stole the mic, which is you are the ambassadors, and the more you talk about this stuff, people will start saying, "What do you mean adaptive capacity? What do you mean Triffer mispredicts, or in fact it predicts like inversely, right? Or nothing, it's random." And so the more you guys are able to talk about this, the more we're going to get the conversation, and I think a pull and a thirst for people to come to the sources and find out what it's all about. So keep doing what you're doing, because without you, I can write more shit. That's easy, right? But that's we need you. We need you. You are the change makers, right? So thank you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you all for what you do.
That probably deserves a round of applause there for thanking everybody. All right, calm down. Self-promoting bastards. Right, okie doke. We're finishing up. I've had enough of these. You in particular.
Well, that's reciprocal.
All right. Okay, Georgina. Steve's on the dance floor. He's giving it the big loudy with James Morrison, and I had to write this down, by the way, because I've never heard of these guys. Tommy Emmanuel. Right, and all your jazz music that I know you love. What's the song that's going to get you on the dance floor?
It's probably something that maybe should not be communicated here, but let's go with a more PC song. I unfortunately like to listen to old school hip hop from the early 90s and 2000s. So something like Usher.
Yes.
not intellectual or smart at all.
You said P. Diddy in the interview.
You said you'd cut it.
Professor Dekker, hang on a minute.
I don't get to answer that question.
No, you do. But I remember when we were really young, you were playing the piano and everybody was singing and dancing.
Yeah.
So what's the song that you would play tonight to get everybody up singing and dancing?
Where's the piano?
He did ask that earlier.
Yeah, we don't have one.
Well, then it's a
It's out of
completely
budget.
hypothetical shite question, so never mind. Get a piano, we'll find out.
All right. Well, what's the song that would get you up in the karaoke?
Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody.
That is so 80s.
I didn't say I was good, I just said I'd sing to it.
You said what song would you?
That dates you, girl.
Oh, well.
But you're 28, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So,
What song would get you up singing, Sid? You
zero,
wouldn't sing?
because I'd be at the piano playing it. So.
Oh, would you? All right. Okay, doc. Get one more question left, and I'm going to ask it. Right. So Coca-Cola, I know you work at Coca-Cola, and Jordan's here from Coca-Cola, are the best-selling drink all over the planet, except in one country. What is that country called? It's Scotland. So
It's
everywhere.
not a country, you bastard!
Freedom! Oh, don't open that one, right? Because it'll go bloody everywhere. Everybody, Georgina Poole, Sidney Dekker. Woo!